The following is a production of Fenix Media. The views expressed do not necessarily represent those of the company or its advertisers and may contain language that's unsuitable for younger listeners.
You're listening to Be Kind, Rewind with Tim Nydell, taking you back to when movies were actually good.
Are you telling me that you built a time machine out of a DeLorean?
When music wasn't auto-tuned. When TV only had a few channels. And now, here's your host, Tim Nydell.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of Be Kind Rewind with Tim Nydell. If you want to find me online, just go to timnydell.com or follow me on social media. It's at Tim_Nydell. And of course, Be Kind Rewind is part of Fenix Media, the multiverse of pop culture entertainment. Find them online at fenixmedia.us. That's Phoenix with an X, media.us. In today's episode of Be Kind Rewind, I need to play an older interview that I did for my other show, Saturday Morning Rewind. It's my interview with Floyd Norman, who was actually a Disney animator during Walt Disney days. Actually worked along with Walt Disney. Floyd worked on Sleeping Beauty, Sword in the Stone, Jungle Book, 101 Dalmatians. He even worked with Pixar to help with Toy Story 2, Monsters, Inc., that kind of stuff. Very nice guy, very friendly guy. And there's actually a great documentary out there if you want to watch it about him. It's called Floyd Norman, An Animated Life. Came out in 2016. I believe it used to be on Netflix or Amazon Prime. I have the Blu-ray of it, but I think the first time I watched it was on Netflix, so it might still be there. Very great documentary if you want to learn more about Floyd. But yeah, like I said, this was part of my Saturday Morning Rewind podcast. I'm having to go back and play these older interviews because, unfortunately, 2 weeks ago, I actually broke my right hand. Not one of my smartest moves, but so it's all in a cast right now. Pretty impossible. I mean, it's not impossible. I can edit left-handed. It just takes freaking forever, so I kind of don't want to do it. But I do have some exciting upcoming interviews and episodes for Be Kind Rewind that I can't wait to record and get those out there. So stay tuned for those. Stay tuned. Make sure you're listening to all the other podcasts on Fenix Media. They're all pretty amazing, and they're always adding new shows to the roster. So make sure to follow them on Facebook to find out what new shows are coming to Fenix Media. But anyways, Floyd Norman, man, I can't tell you how much I enjoy talking with him. I've been a huge Walt Disney fan ever since I was a little kid. Watched all the animated movies, all the Disney afternoon cartoons. I just adored everything there was about Disney when I was a kid. Even now, I mean, I love Disney now. I go to Disneyland at least once a year, or at least I did prior to, COVID and everything. I'm actually going to Disney World in a little less than 2 months, which I'm excited for because I've only been there twice. And each time I went there was only for 1 day each time. And this time I'm going for 3 days. So I'm excited because I know you can't really do a ton at Disney World in just 1 day. So I'm excited to check that out. And if you're listening and you want to recommend something that I do at Disney World, because really I don't remember much about it. Last time I was there was 1999. So much has changed since then. So if you have any recommendations, hit me up online, please. I'd love to hear about it. But I was really excited when Floyd agreed to do an interview with me because big fan of his work. And nowadays it's kind of rare to get the chance to talk to somebody who actually knew Walt Disney himself. It's kind of sad to think that the numbers are kind of dwindling down of the people who really knew Walt Disney. And Floyd did. Floyd worked with him for a handful of years. So we talk all about that. We talk about his involvement with Disney, after Disney, and even the controversy of Song of the South. And you'll hear all those stories and more right after a quick break and a word from our sponsors.
Behold my precious. Ooh, Yeah, let me tell you something right here. It's the Loot Crate subscription box. Yeah, full of exclusive loot, fun surprises delivered to your door every month.
Just pick up your favorite geeky genre, Daddy.
From the original Loot Crate, the Loot Crate Dex collectible boxes, dude. Cowabunga!
To the Loot Gaming video game box. Woohoo! Yee-hoo!
What's with kids today, huh?
Wowzers! With crates starting as low as $11.99 per month, there's a box just about for all collectors.
To get your geek on, head over to phoenixmedia.us/Loot Crate and claim exclusive offer. That's FENIX media.us/Loot Crate. Great Scott!
Snap into a Loot Crate, dig it?
WWE superstar Alberto Del Rio, take one.
Behold the angry giant.
Try it again, Alberto.
Behold the angry giant.
Perfect. Good luck tonight.
Behold the angry giant.
Yay! Read me another one, Dad.
This is WWE superstar Alberto Del Rio. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
This is Mario Andretti. You know me as a race car driver, but I'm also a Meals on Wheels volunteer. I've raced against the sport's biggest personalities, but I've never met more vibrant, amazing people than the seniors served by Meals on Wheels. You can make a difference by dropping off a hot meal and saying a quick hello. So, America, let's do lunch. Volunteer your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
People been saying to your friend, get a different face, and posting on their feed, they're super ugly. The things they say to them online are cruel and they're not true. So tell your friend, I'll stand up for you. Don't worry, I know what to do.
Know someone being bullied online? You can be a witness and make a difference by letting the world know it isn't cool and by letting your friend know you care. Learn more at eyewitnessbullying.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Hope you enjoyed your meal. And I just want to say, he's lucky to have a brother like you.
Lucky? Caring for my brother is far from easy. But he's a part of me, like my arms and legs, so I'll be his. No time for tired. Nothing can disable this love. He needs me. But I'm the lucky one, even though I need help now and then.
If you're caring for a loved one, visit aarp.org/caregiving for care guides and community. Support for your strength. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Fenix Media. Listen live and explore more great shows at phoenixmedia.us.
I don't want to take up too much of your time, so...
Okay, my time is yours. This is luckily a day where there's, believe it or not, absolutely nothing going on.
Is that a rare thing nowadays for you?
It is a rare thing, and it's it's kind of special, so it's nice.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad that I've got a free day.
How do you spend your days off like this?
Pretty much every day I find myself at the Walt Disney studio, the DCP campus. That is the campus that's over in Glendale, separate from the movie studio, which is in Burbank. But I divide my time between both campuses, although more often than not, I'm usually at the Glendale campus where that's everything except film. The main lot is mainly motion pictures and television.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
When did you first fall in love with animation? Do you remember that moment?
I do remember, indeed. I fell in love with animation when my mother took me to see Dumbo. And this had to be in the early, probably the 40s, when I was a little kid. And I saw that wonderful motion picture with all the images on the screen, the artwork, the music. I was just enchanted by all of this. And I think many of my colleagues felt the same way. They all fell in love with animation when they were children and knew there was something they wanted to do with their life.
Yeah, Dumbo is one of those amazing films that, pretty much every Disney movie that came out back in those days holds up still today. And Dumbo is definitely one of those.
Right. Dumbo was made during a very difficult time, too. I think a lot of people who don't know the Disney history had to know that there was a lot of pressure on the Disney studio and on Walt Disney in particular. Studio was under siege. They had lost half their income because of the war in Europe. They were also suffering from a strike. The studio really faced closing, faced bankruptcy. And it was Dumbo, really, that saved them.
Wow. And what about your talent for art? When did you first discover your art talent?
Well, like most kids, I was drawing in school, and I like to joke to tell people that the kids who become artists, who become professionals, are the ones who simply do not stop drawing and painting.
Yeah.
And that seems to make the difference. A young girl when I was in grade school in Santa Barbara, named Gretchen Fate, and Gretchen continued to draw and paint, and she became an artist, and I became one as well. But it was mainly because the rest of the kids stopped drawing, and we just kept on drawing and painting, and I guess that meant we were odd or unusual or meant to be artists.
Yeah, exactly. And tell me about when you first started working for Disney. How old were you when you started?
I was probably 19 or 20 years old. Wow. I was in my third year of art school. Keep in mind, I first came to Disney at age 17, right out of high school, with my little portfolio. And Disney gave me good advice. They said, go to school, learn how to become an artist, and then come back and apply for a job. Well, I took their advice. It was good advice. I enrolled at Art Center College of Design in Los Angeles, a 4-year course. And when I was in my third year at Art Center, I received a call from the Walt Disney Studio asking me if I still wanted to work for them. And I said, yes, I did.
Wow.
So I dropped out of school and immediately began working for Disney.
Smart move.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You had to have been one of the youngest ones in the art department, right?
No, I think all of I'll call it a class. What they would do, they would bring in a dozen or half a dozen young kids right out of school. So we were all approximately the same age.
Okay.
19 or 20. Early 20s was pretty much the age range when they brought young people in, early 20s.
Okay.
So all of my colleagues, both men and women, were all around the same age. So we were all newbies, most of us right out of school. Many of us had not even completed school yet, but Disney needed artists, and so we were called.
What was the first thing that you remember working on for Disney?
Well, that's really easy because the first project I worked on was the daily ABC show. You've probably heard of it. It was called the Mickey Mouse Club.
I think so.
Yeah, that was the first show I worked on.
Wow. What did you do for that?
Well, what they would do back in those days, the young artists would be, our position was called apprentice in-betweener. And so, and that was the lowest rung on the animation ladder. It was a tedious, meticulous job, a mundane job, but a very necessary job, a very important job in the animation process. So all of us would start off as apprentice in-betweeners, and that is doing in-betweens. People often ask me, what is an in-between? Well, an in-between is a drawing that goes in between two other drawings, and that's the easiest way to describe it. What the in-between does, it smooths out the action. In animation, the animator is drawing key poses, the key poses that express or describe the action.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to smooth all that out and to make it flow effortlessly, you have to have drawings in between those other drawings. And those drawings are called in-betweens. So it is it's a mundane job, it's a grunt job, but it's a very necessary job in the animation process.
Yeah, I mean, without you, there'd be gaps in the animation.
Exactly. So that was our job, this mundane job, to do the in-betweens for the animators. And that's how pretty much everybody gets started in the business. Mm-hmm. And that included people who were going to go on to other jobs. Some of us became not just animators, but some of us went on to become layout artists, writers, background painters. But we all started out as apprentice in-betweeners.
Okay. I understand you did some in-between work for Sleeping Beauty as well early on.
Yes, I did. Matter of fact, that was the main reason most of us were called. Sleeping Beauty was in production. It was behind schedule. It was over budget. And Walt Disney needed to get that film completed as quickly as possible. And that was the reason for the big hiring surge at Disney back in the 50s. It was to get Sleeping Beauty completed because the film was way behind schedule, and that's why we were called. So it was an opportunity for us to begin our careers because the studio was under pressure to finish Sleeping Beauty.
And I don't think a lot of people know nowadays that it wasn't a huge success that they actually expected it to be.
Very true, very true. Sadly, Sleeping Beauty opened in 1959 to very poor reviews and a real lackluster audience reaction as well. So the film really, it took decades, I think, for the film to find itself, or for audiences to discover the film. It is now regarded today as a Disney classic.
Oh, easily. Yeah.
But at the time, it was not regarded as a success.
Yep. I mean, same thing with Fantasia. I mean, a lot of the older stuff, people don't realize that it didn't really make money for Disney, but later on, it gained its audience.
That's correct. That's true. That's pretty much the way it goes in this business. Sometimes it takes it takes a few years before an audience discovers a film or appreciates a film. So it doesn't always happen right away.
Most of my family, they never graduated high school, so I'm trying to break that barrier. My daughter, Brooklyn, was also a motivation for me to go back to school. Every day after work, went straight to school, and it paid off.
At age 26, Kareem finished his high school diploma.
I could not have done it alone. I see the future is really bright for me.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
So I'm a cat, and I just moved in with this new human, and she's got this little toy she's always playing with, all day long. Tap, 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 bloop, bloop. She can't put it down. There it is. Oh, and get this. She even talks to it. Last week, she asked it for Chinese, and guess what? Egg rolls showed up. Like magic. Humans have cool toys.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
What if I told you that a tornado was going to happen tomorrow, right where you live? That it would touch down at exactly 3:17 p.m., and I told you the exact path it would take. You would, of course, prepare. You would talk with your loved ones, and you'd make a plan today. It's true, I can't tell you a tornado will strike tomorrow, but shouldn't you have a plan anyway? Go to ready.gov/communicate and make your emergency plan today. Don't wait. Communicate. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
I spend a lot of time in the backyard, and I'm the center of attention at summer barbecues. In '96, I made some of the tastiest s'mores. And in '09, it was me, your backyard fire pit, that accidentally started a wildfire when a summer breeze carried one of my embers into some dry brush.
Spark a change, not a wildfire. Visit SmokeyBear.com. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
My name is Lola Silvestri, and I'm going to be 95 this year. I was very independent. I fell, and I had to have Meals on Wheels. America, let's do lunch.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
Hey everyone, let's all stop what we're doing and take a moment. You see, every moment can be kind of special. But they could be loud moments, goofy moments, dorky moments. It doesn't matter. Because every time dads like us take a moment like that to spend with our kids, well, it's pretty momentous. So let's take a moment to make a moment. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Fenix Media. Listen live and explore more great shows at fenixmedia.us.
There's one thing I saw online that I didn't know. I didn't actually know this until recently, just until last past week. It said online that you wrote some of the story for Jungle Book. Is that true?
That's the reason I was on the film. That is correct.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I had purposely avoided the Jungle Book. It's really interesting that the film that probably most defines my career is the film that I decided to avoid. Isn't that funny how that goes? I honestly did not want to work on the Jungle Book and purposely chose another project or other projects to work on so I wouldn't have to be on that particular feature.
Wow.
Well, lo and behold, back in 1965-66, the film ran into trouble with Walt Disney. Walt was unhappy with the direction of the film. He didn't like the story, felt it was too dark, too mysterious, too murky, and he wanted a film that was more lighthearted, more upbeat. He got into a big argument with the writer of the film, Bill Peet, who was one of Disney's finest storytellers. And he and Walt could not come to an agreement on the direction of the film, so Bill Peet quit the film, and Walt needed a new story crew to rewrite the movie. Well, I was part of that new story team brought on board to rewrite The Jungle Book back in 1966.
Wow. I mean, so you added a lot of key elements to the story that we know today then.
Yes, I did. I was part of the new story crew. People often wondered if you wrote The Jungle Book, I don't recall seeing your name on the screen.
Uh-huh.
I have to explain to people who don't know Disney that just because you worked on a film, that did not necessarily mean you were going to receive a screen credit. Screen credits had to be earned in the old days, and simply working on a movie was not enough to earn you a screen credit.
Yeah.
You had to prove yourself as a competent storyteller over a series of motion pictures, and only then might you receive a screen credit.
Wow.
So it was much more rigorous in those days. Today, everybody receives a screen credit because it's, I think, required by the unions.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have caterers and drivers and anybody and everybody gets a screen credit. But back in the old days, screen credits had to be earned, and they were not earned with just one motion picture. So that's why I do not have a screen credit on The Jungle Book.
And also back in those days, he didn't put the voice actors in the credits either.
Some of them did. I do recall, I think our main voice actors did get credit for The Jungle Book. But, there was a time when actors would not receive a credit on a film. And so, and there were many people who did not receive screen credits on films they worked on. That was just the way it was back in the old days.
Tell me about working alongside the 9 Old Men.
Well, I had the opportunity to, as I often tell people, and especially my students when I'm teaching a class, that I was privileged to work with Disney's finest. Keep in mind, these were the men and women, that's important to point out too, and women, who made the Disney classic films that I saw as a child.
Yeah.
So think about that. I had the opportunity to work with the very same people who made the Disney classic I saw when I was just a kid. And now they were my mentors. Now I would learn from them. And they were tough taskmasters, to be sure. I tell people, don't think because I was at the Walt Disney Studio, it was all fun and games. These artists were the top in their field. They were the finest. They were the best. And they demanded your best. So when we went to work for guys like Milt Kahl, Frank Thomas, Ollie Johnston, Eric Larson, Ward Kimball, Wooly Reiterman, Les Clark, I can name all the 9. You had to deliver the goods. They expected you to be at your best, and they did not accept second best. So it was a pretty rigorous training for us young kids, but it was the best training we could have received because we were learning from the best in the business, and who better to learn from than the people who had created the Disney classics.
Mm-hmm. Now, my favorite animator of all time is Ollie Johnston. I don't really know much about Ollie Johnston. What can you tell me about Ollie?
Ollie Johnston, because of his very quiet nature, doesn't often merit the kind of attention he deserves. Ollie was a wonderful, talented animator and did brilliant work in so many of the Disney classic films. Ollie was a quiet man, soft-spoken. Everything about Ollie was sort of understated. A lot of his colleagues were more outspoken, almost boisterous to a point. Guys like Milt Kahl, who is known for his temper tantrums and yelling and shouting. So Ollie was, kind of a quiet guy, and you don't hear a great deal about him because he never made a point to, push himself toward the front. But he was an extremely talented animator. Some of his beautiful work can be seen in Walt Disney's last film, The Jungle Book, where that scene of the little boy when Mowgli is watching the little girl, when she comes to fetch the water, and little Mowgli is entranced by this girl in the village, so much so that he follows her back to the village. Well, that little girl, that beautiful animation was done by Ollie Johnston, and what a wonderful sequence that is toward the end of the film, where Mowgli goes back to the man village. But that beautiful scene is animated by Ollie Johnston.
Wow, I love it.
Yeah.
Tell me about the man himself, Walt Disney. Tell me about the first time you met Walt.
Well, a lot of us, when we came to the Disney studio as kids, we never expected to have any dealing with Walt Disney. After all, he was the boss. He was the big man. His name was on the studio. So we never expected any kind of interaction with Walt Disney. We might see him walking around the studio lot, or we might observe him in the hallway. But most of us were so intimidated. Keep in mind that Walt Disney, even then, was already a living legend.
Yeah.
So he was quite intimidating just to see him walk your way. It's kind of difficult to describe what it was like, especially for all of us who were very young and just coming into the business, being able to work for someone like Walt Disney, who was already an icon in the entertainment business. So I honestly can say it was a decade before I even had the opportunity to speak with Walt Disney. I had been at the studio for 10 years until I finally had worked up the nerve just to say, hi, Walt. And so you see, it took some doing. But honestly, waiting that 10 years was well worth it, because after that decade with Disney, I was granted the opportunity, and I do mean it was a very big opportunity, to work with Walt Disney, something I never expected in my wildest dreams, to work with Walt Disney. Yes, I had hoped that one day I might work for Walt Disney, but I never imagined I would work with Walt Disney.
Tell me about those moments you had with him.
Well, people often ask me, what was Walt Disney like to work with? Because they knew that he could be quite demanding. And Walt Disney, no doubt about it, he was a taskmaster. He expected his people to deliver the finest, to do their best, to do better than their best. And so he was not necessarily an easy man to work for, because he was very demanding. He wanted top quality. And yet, having said that, I have no problem with a boss wanting the best. I don't see anything wrong with that. For someone who strives for excellence, who wants the very best in everything they do, and from everyone who works for them, I have no problem with that. So I didn't approach my job with fear. I was on board, even though I was a kid. I was ready to learn from what I considered a master in the entertainment business, a master storyteller, and taking full advantage of the opportunity to learn from Walt Disney.
Of course, yeah.
Who was one of the industry's finest story editors. For me, was just a fantastic opportunity. As tough as Walt might be, if you were in that meeting with Walt Disney, you were a very lucky person indeed.
I love how publicly you're so outspoken by saying he was not a racist, you know?
Yeah, it's just a matter of telling the truth. Sadly, a lot of the stories you hear about Walt Disney often come from people who didn't know Walt Disney.
Yep.
Never worked for Walt Disney. In some cases, never even met Walt Disney. And so they have all of these opinions and attitudes about a man they never met. Well, for those of us who were there, we met Walt Disney. We worked with Walt Disney. We saw him on a day-to-day basis. We saw how he managed his company, how he treated people. So if you want a portrait of Walt Disney, I would recommend you speak with people who knew him, not with people who simply heard of him or read something about him, because they are not the experts. Their opinions are not informed. It is just that. It's just their opinion, and those opinions are often wrong. So those of us who had the pleasure and privilege of working with what we call respectfully the old man like to tell the real story. And that real story is that Walt Disney was not a perfect man by any means.
Mm-hmm.
He drank too much. He smoked too much, no doubt. Yet he treated people respectfully. And I can honestly say he was the finest boss I ever worked for.
Nice, I love that.
Yeah.
Dear John, I'm leaving. Uncontrolled high blood pressure is serious, and I can quit whenever I want. Why can't we get back to when you checked on me? I don't want to leave, but remember, when I quit, you quit. Sincerely, your heart.
Listen to your heart and don't let it quit on you. High blood pressure can lead to a stroke, heart attack, or death. Get yours to a healthy range today. For help keeping yours at a healthy range, text PRESSURE to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association, the American Stroke Association, and the Ad Council.
WWE superstar Alberto Del Rio. Take one.
Behold the angry giant.
Try it again, Alberto.
Behold the angry giant.
Perfect. Good luck tonight.
Behold the angry giant.
Yay! Read me another one, Dad.
This is WWE superstar Alberto Del Rio. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
It may be hard to believe, but people just like you are already saving money. FeedThePig.org makes it easy. Their simple savings plan teaches you how to start saving without going overboard, so you don't need to sell all your belongings and live in a commune.
These dungarees belong to all of us now, Tom.
You don't need to get a second job as a stuntman.
We need a new stuntman!
You just need FeedThePig.org. Don't get left behind. Get tips and tools at FeedThePig.org. Brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Allison is perfect. I mean, she'd never tell you that. She's humble and perfect. She likes everyone. She even likes her untidy roommate's weird guinea pig. Allison, wait, are you texting and driving? Allison, no. That's the exact opposite of what I was just saying about you. Why, Allison? Why? Texting and driving makes good people look bad. Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
I'm Paul George of the Indiana Pacers. When I was 6, my days were spent playing basketball. When I was 6, my dream was to make it to the NBA. When I was 6, my mom had a stroke. So I want you to learn to spot a stroke fast. F-A-S-T. F. Face drooping. A. Arm weakness. S. Speech difficulty. T. Time to call 911. I'm Paul George. Spot a stroke fast. Visit strokeassociation.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
My name is Lola Silvestri, and I'm going to be 95 this year. I was very independent. I fell, and I had to have Meals on Wheels. America, let's do lunch.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Fenix Media. Listen live and explore more great shows at fenixmedia.us.
What are your honest thoughts on Song of the South? Should it ever be released?
This has been going on for some time, and it's kind of funny you should mention that because we recently published a book of Walt Disney holiday stories. I think that's how the book was titled. I don't even have a copy because I've got to go pick up a copy from Disney Publishing. But during the holiday season, we would often write Disney stories that would have a holiday theme and that would feature the Disney classic characters. I wrote a couple of, probably more than a couple of those holiday stories myself. And one of the ones I wrote was a holiday story based on the wonderful, fun, and fanciful characters from Song of the South.
Wow.
Well, when that book of Disney holiday stories was published about a year ago, Song of the South was supposed to be included in that book, a story I had written that I think, well, I'm trying to remember the title, if I called it Brer Rabbit's Christmas or Brer Rabbit's First Snowfall or whatever. But anyway, it was a holiday story involving Uncle Remus and Brer Rabbit and all the critters in the Joel Chandler Harris stories. Well, Disney decided not to publish my story. They felt the story might in some way, I gather, be offensive. And I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. How could a Brer Rabbit, Uncle Remus story be offensive if the story was written by an African American? But whatever the case, the Walt Disney Studios, Disney Publishing, decided not to publish that particular story that I think was probably called The Brer Rabbit Christmas, because they felt it might be racially insensitive. I don't know how. It is just a wonderful, fun story that I wrote, by the way, that tells what happens at the plantation around holiday time when the two little kids, the boy and the girl, I think Johnny and Jenny, when they celebrate Christmas and they are, regretting that there's no snow, because after all, it's the South. There wouldn't be snow in the South. And so Brer Rabbit and Brer Bear, Brer Fox, I created this fanciful story where they actually do get a snowfall at the end of the story. And it's a fun story. It's a lighthearted, delightful story that features Uncle Remus and all of the wonderful characters in the Joel Chandler Harris stories. Mm-hmm. It got published back in the 1980s, I believe. That's when I wrote it.
Okay.
But in this recent edition, it was not published. And that's sad because, again, that ties in with the original question. It turns out that Walt Disney's Song of the South remains a hot topic.
It is.
Even to this day, which is sad because I think it is a wonderful motion picture.
I think too. I mean, I'm coming from I'm a white male, so I never saw the racist side of the movie. You know what I mean?
Well, there really isn't any. That's the irony with all of the controversy. There's really nothing offensive about this story.
That's what I thought too. Yep.
Yeah. But it's sad, but it is still regarded as such to this day. It is a hot potato. It is a topic that Disney prefers to, I guess, sweep under the rug.
Yeah,
because they don't want to deal with it.
But
even though there's nothing there that I find is a problem.
Exactly, and you can't just hide history, you know.
No, you can't. No, you can't. And it is a beautiful film. It is a very well made film, and it features some of the finest Disney animation ever seen on film.
Yeah.
And it is and a wonderful performance by the actor James Baskett, who played Uncle Remus, and even won an Academy Award for his portrayal of that character. So there are so many good things about Walt Disney's Song of the South, and yet we continually focus on what we feel are the bad things.
Yeah.
So there you go. Yeah.
So I was watching your documentary that came out last year, An Animated Life, which I love, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We're very, very proud of that film.
Yeah, I bought it on Blu-ray sometime. I believe it was last summer. And you have to be the most hired and fired person from Disney.
Well, I have fun with that in the movie, although I don't think I'm all that different from most Disney employees. We work in an industry that tends to expand and contract. Sometimes there's a need for artists, and sometimes there's not a need because of production schedules and that kind of thing. So I did find myself sort of in and out of Disney, and I sort of had fun with it when I told that story about my being hired and fired and hired and fired and going back and forth. So it made for an interesting story and a sort of a fun gag. But my plight was not all that different from my colleagues, who often found themselves losing a job and then being called back to the studio to work on another job.
Yeah.
So it is just nature. It's a nature of the entertainment business, where our jobs tend not to be steady, where you tend to come and go as production schedules demand. And that's kind of the way it is. I've always been lucky to, if I did lose a job, I immediately found another one. So it's not a story of difficulty or hardship. Mm-hmm. It is just the nature of the entertainment business.
And speaking of other jobs, I did not know that you worked on some of my favorite Saturday morning cartoons like Alvin and the Chipmunks, Smurfs, Garfield and Friends. I never knew that.
A lot of that stuff, and so much of that comes as a result of my losing my Disney job. What happened, I was animating on a Robin Hood, I think around 1972. I know it was in the early 70s. And I lost that job and went to Hanna-Barbera Productions, a company that did Saturday morning television. Well, I have to remind people that Saturday morning TV is not like doing classic Disney films.
Yeah.
A Disney film takes a period of 2 to 3 years to complete. The TV shows we did at Hanna-Barbera took 2 to 3 weeks to complete, if that. So it was indeed a much faster process. We didn't have the budgets to do stellar work. There were time constraints because these shows had to be delivered quickly. And so we had to basically hack out a lot of shows in a limited period of time. So that was just the nature of Saturday morning television back in the 70s and 80s, when we did, Smurfs and Scooby-Doo and Super Friends and Captain Caveman and all of those shows that you probably saw as kids.
Oh, yeah.
But it was a job. It was a fun job. We were still doing animation, so we enjoyed the work we did, knowing full well we were not doing Disney quality work, but we were still making cartoons. And if you're a cartoon maker, at least you're making cartoons. And so it was still a great job, even though the work was not as good as Disney.
My process. Ooh, yeah, let me tell you something right here.
It's the Loot Crate subscription box, yep, full of exclusive loot, fun surprises delivered to your door every month.
Just pick up your favorite geeky genre, Daddy.
From the original Loot Crate, the Loot Crate Dex collectible boxes, dude! Cowabunga!
To the Loot Gaming video game box.
Woohoo! Yee-hoo!
Loot Crate Hero Box. What's with kids today, huh?
Wowzers! With crits starting as low as $11.99 per month, there's a box just about for all collectors. To get your geek on, head over to fenixmedia.us/Loot Crate and claim your exclusive offer. That's FENIXmedia.us/Loot Crate. Great Scott!
Snap into a Loot Crate, dig it?
You're listening to Fenix Media. Listen live and explore more great shows at fenixmedia.us.
What has Disney had you busy with these days?
Well, since I no longer work for the Disney company, and that's something that I have to explain to people because I have this long relationship with the Walt Disney Company. I left the company officially around the year 2000, 2001, when I officially retired from Walt Disney Studios after many, many years. And I think the last feature films I worked on were probably for Pixar. I did Toy Story 2 up at Pixar. I did Monsters Incorporated. I worked on a film called Home on the Range and a few other things. But I officially left the studio around 2001. Well, even though I left animation, I managed to find work at Disney Publishing because some of the artists over at Disney Publishing said, you had worked on these Pixar films. We're doing a series of Pixar books. Why don't you come and work with us on these Pixar books that we're doing here at Disney? So after leaving the studio, I find myself coming back to work for Disney in the publishing department. Not working in film, but working in creating books. Wow. And material that's, printed, published. So it was, but, it's all still Disney storytelling, regardless of whether you're doing a book or a movie, you're still telling a story. And so I was right at home doing that. Well, that led from one thing to another. Upstairs in the electronics department where they develop new toys, they were working on a new toy, and I believe it was John Lasseter suggested that he saw me hanging around not doing anything, and he said, why don't you get Floyd to work on this project? And so I ended up working on a toy upstairs in the consumer products division. And then I would move over and work on a video game, and then I would move over and work on something else. And I remember a couple of years ago, they wanted to do an animated segment, a section of the film that was not completed in 101 Dalmatians. And so they asked if I would come back and write that and storyboarded because they wanted to animate this section of film that was not used in the original 101 Dalmatians. So I find myself bouncing from one job to the next. Even though I am not a Disney employee, I still find myself working for Disney in various aspects. A couple of weeks ago, I spoke down at Disneyland. I speak there often to the employees and do a lot of teaching, a lot of mentoring. I'm around the studio because I guess I try to make myself useful and sort of be sort of a guiding hand to the young kids who are just coming into the business. So essentially what I'm doing is picking up the role of mentor to a lot of the young people.
Yeah.
The same way the Disney old-timers mentored me when I was a young kid just coming into the business. That's what I'm doing today. Yeah, that's how I keep busy today.
Wow, love it. I'll be in Disneyland in 3 weeks. Too bad you weren't there in 3 weeks from now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah. oddly enough, I might be at Walt Disney World. So I'm going to be there, but I'm going to be at the wrong park.
Nice.
There's a possibility I'm going to be making a couple of trips down to Walt Disney World in Florida. Ironically enough, I just came back from Florida, and I've still got to go back twice. I think once next month and again in July. So it's funny, even though I no longer work full-time for the Walt Disney Studios, I still find myself very much involved with Disney in one way or another. I'm always, apparently it seems like I'm always doing something for them. So that relationship continues even to this day.
Yeah, I love that. So my final question, in 100 years, when we're all off this earth, how would you like people to remember you?
I think what's wonderful about the product we create at Walt Disney Studios is that it'll be enjoyed by generations to come. Keep in mind, I watched these Disney films when I was a little kid. And then eventually I grew up and was able to come to the studio to create a new product, to be a part of the creative process. And I know that when I'm gone, that a lot of the work that I've created will be left behind for others to enjoy. Mm-hmm. I think that's the great part about what we do. It's not limited, by age or time. Generations from now, 50 years, 100 years from now, we'll probably still be watching Disney content because what we create is timeless. It's magical, and it's going to be here forever.
Amen.
Yeah.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
So, Floyd, thank you seriously so much for your time. This has been a true honor. Like I said, I'm a big fan of your work, so this has been great.
Well, thank you very much. Like I said, I often remind people, I said, I am only one of hundreds of Disney artists, People oftentimes give me more credit than I deserve. I've just been delighted to have been part of the team to create this magic. And what's been even more special is to have been a part of Walt Disney's team, to actually work with Walt Disney on The Jungle Book. And boy, oh boy, when you look at a career, you can't do much better than that. So I'm very grateful for the career I've had, for the opportunities that have come my way, and it's just been thoroughly delightful to have been part of this amazing company.
Thanks for listening to Saturday Morning Rewind. Please check them out on Facebook and Twitter. And that's all, folks.